Hey friends, this is Dolynny TV. Glad to have you aboard here this evening as we get set up to discuss the latest in Edmonton Oilers news. I'm going to go through this really briefly, really quickly. I want to kind of try and sit back and enjoy my evening a little bit tonight. Debut edition of heavy hockey for myself here this evening alongside the gang there. So looking forward to that as things continue to evolve here in the Edmonton Oilers landscape. I guess for most of you, I think this would be the first podcast debut you're going to be able to catch me in. So looking forward to doing that here tonight. But the Oilers, of course, Chris Knobloch talked today. So did Connor McDavid. And the message simply is just pretty much what the message has been since the day after Connor McDavid's incident with Connor Garland and Tyler Myers with Evan Bouchard, is just consistency. And you know what? Absolutely, right? Consistency should be there throughout the game, throughout the players, throughout the periods, throughout the time, throughout the season. I 100% get that, and I 100% appreciate that. The only problem is, I think what everybody that kind of agrees with my line of thinking is it just ain't going to happen. Again, it's kind of the same idea you've got with maybe the MLB umpires to some degree, where the consistency behind the plate just isn't the same. And that just simply is the only way to do it is to automate it. And the more you automate hockey, the closer you get away from hockey, which is truly the game we all love, to more or less stick and puck, or you're just playing soccer on ice. That's really the only two outcomes I see happening. And yes, you can say that, I guess, the on-ice officials, they're always going to have some inconsistency, but the messaging from the league, the messaging from the off-ice officials who run the referees and linesmen, maybe the messaging there needs to change, and that is really something I can get behind. Again, the NHL holds all the power here. End of the day, so long as they do not allow for the enforcers and allow teams and players to police things on the ice like they used to, guess what? The NHL holds all the power here. That's what they want. That's what they get. And they are the ones that ultimately have to make the directive to call the rule book. If they do that, all of a sudden, you know what, I like our chances a lot more than we have right now. And that's, of course, I guess to say all the penalties seemingly going against the Oilers and none going for the Oilers. What I will tell you, you never hear the Oilers complaining or Oilers fans complaining about refereeing when we get more power play goals or when we get more power plays than the other team. Funny how that seems to work. That's the only thing I'm going to say to that. Just simply because it is. It's something you complain about the refs when you lose. You never complain about the refs when you win. It is just basic scientific fact. Don't care which hockey fan, don't care which sports fan you are. If you won, you're just laughing at the other team that's complaining about the refs. So keep that somewhere in the middle if you would. And for the Oilers today, like I said, Chris Knobloch talked. I think the biggest thing from him was, again, you can talk about the Connor McDavid stuff. Who cares? Who cares? It's over. It's done with. The Oilers, a good effort last night, just not good enough to win. And, well, tomorrow we rematch the Vancouver Canucks and we can redo all the circus tomorrow evening and have a good old time. Should be live on the channel tomorrow night. Hoping anyway, as long as life doesn't get in the way. And then, by the way, guess what? Then you've only got one more game left in the Connor McDavid suspension. But what Chris Knobloch did mention today is that the idea for game action for Mr. John Klingberg is sometime in the set of games next week. I think that's been the idea. I think mostly it was reevaluate next week. Now it is sounding likely from the head coach that we will see game action John Klingberg at some point next week. Obviously, talking with Klingberg, talking with coaching staff, medical staff, all that still has to happen and nothing is yet to be guaranteed. We learned that lesson. Remember that reminder from Greg Wyshynski a couple of weeks ago about Connor McDavid's contract status, but keep in mind nothing is guaranteed and we'll see what happens with John Klingberg. I know there's talk about the trade deadline plans maybe having changed because of the Oilers acquiring John Klingberg. I would tell you it's absolutely ludicrous to think, if you're the Edmonton Oilers management group, that anything should change based on signing John Klingberg, who hasn't played hockey in several months, if not a lot more months. I'm in between here right now, real bad. Missing a lot of things. Work has been super busy, and obviously it's minus 20 here the last little bit, so keep that in mind as well. It's tough to keep up when the no heat calls and the HVAC is flowing off the old charts. So yeah, that's where we're at. Obviously for the Oilers today as well, Connor McDavid speaking. I finally get to that. Connor talking about his suspension, and you know what? He didn't think it needed to be that hefty, but again, he also knows he can't do that. So, kind of put two and two in each hand and say, well, you knew you did something bad. You also know that the Department of Player Safety never gets a suspension right according to anybody. So, 3 games is just what they spun the wheel and ended up on. It was matching with Myers. We knew that was going to be the case. Wash your hands, away we go. But at least Connor acknowledged, hey, I know I can't do that, right? That's the big thing. Is like we said, you know what? You can get mugged is the term that's being used and get thrashed around on the ice, but that is by no means ground to get up and cross-check a guy in the head. I loved it. I love that Connor has a physical side to him and he's not afraid to stand up for himself. The problem is, depending on what that standing up looks like, there is consequences for it, and ultimately it's a 3-game suspension. Who cares? Connor McDavid gets out of game action for 3 games and probably steals the Hart Trophy away from Leon Draisaitl. That's the way this happens, right? This is the way it's going to go. So that's the case today after all is said and done. I know there's probably a ton of other things. Like I said, moving around, getting the HVAC going here in southern Alberta. I don't know what you know about the Calgary area, but she's busy down here. And that's the case again today. So friends, thanks so much for being aboard. I am up on out of here.